For the two-port networks, we will now discuss two other sets of parameters called the transmission parameters and then the hybrid parameters. So far we discussed about impedance and admittance. When we said that I have a voltage in terms of current, then I said that I needed an impedance matrix, which are called the Z parameters. And then if I needed I in terms, when I write I like this, it's actually a vector. So when I write I, this represents I1, I2. Okay, so I've just condensed it and written it as I, and Z is a matrix. So Z parameter. That's the impedance. And then I is admittance times V. Now, what we are going to do is look at another set of parameters called transmission parameters. So let's start with the transmission first. And as the name suggests, the transmission parameters determine how the input is transmitted to the output. In this case, you can actually think of the port 1 as the input. So you have V1 applied to the input and there's a current I1 flowing in. And on the output side, you have a voltage V2 and there's a current I2 flowing out. Normally in the two-port system, we denote the current flowing in as I2, which looks like this. But like I said, our interest is in seeing how much of I1 gets transmitted to I2. And since I2 is in the opposite direction as I1, so we slightly change the notation. It's the same quantity. So instead of I2 flowing in here, we are writing it as minus I2 flowing outside the network. So let me erase this I2 now. So the transmission parameters are basically relating the value at the input to something at the output. So the V2 and I2 are at the output, and then the parameters that relate them are called the transmission parameters, which are labeled as A, B, C, D. So this is your T matrix. And now we have to see what are the representation, what are the connotations of having the A, B, C, D relate the voltage and current to another voltage and current. Earlier, when we related the voltage to current, then the relationship was through impedance. When you related the current to the voltage, the relationship was through admittance. Now you're having voltage and current on one side and voltage and current on the other side. And you have a set of parameters which relate them. It is telling you that the input voltage and current, how does it relate to the output voltage and current? So let's look at what each of them is. So the value A, the equation for this would be what? If I had to write it down, I would write it down as V1 is equal to AV2 minus BI2, and I1 is CV2 minus DI2, right? Those are the actual equations. And note that the values of A, B, C, D are all positive. It's the minus sign over here is being absorbed by the minus I2, right? Because we said I2 is the current flowing out. The minus I2 is the current flowing out. So the A, B, C, D are still all positive numbers. Now, if I want to find out what is A, then A is the ratio of V1 divided by V2 when I2 is set to 0. That means I have to short circuit I have to open circuit the outside. So that means I2 becomes 0. And A is the ratio V1 by V2. It's called the open circuit voltage ratio. Remember, we have encountered this in the past when we talked about the network functions. We used something called G12, which was the voltage transfer ratio, which told you what is the voltage at port 2 as a consequence of voltage at port 1. And you can see that this is kind of equal to the inverse of A, right? Because A is V1 divided by V2 according to our definition over here. Voltage at port 1 divided by voltage at port 2. But the voltage transfer ratio, that's the term we used. Now, if you want to see what B is, then again in the same equation, or since we have set I2 equal to 0, let's evaluate C also. C is I1 divided by V2. So C is I1 divided by V2 when I2 is 0. So normally when you are evaluating this equation, once you write it down, then you first set I2 equal to 0. That eliminates B and D. Both of these go away. And then I can get the values of A and C over here. So A is V1 by V2 and C is I1 over V2, right? So what is the units of C? C is basically an admittance because it's current divided by voltage, and it's when the output terminal is open circuit. A also requires the output terminal to be open circuit. If I want B and D, then what I have to do is I have to make V2 equal to 0. That means I have to short circuit the output terminal. Okay. And in that case, B is given by V1 divided by minus I2 and D is given by minus I1 by minus I2. So what is the interpretation of these terms? D is the short circuit current ratio. It's negative. Normally you say the current ratio is I2 by I1. So this is the short circuit because the V2 is 0 and it is negative because you're writing it as minus I2. So D is negative short circuit current ratio. C is open circuit transfer admittance. So there's a whole mouthful of terms over here, but they're all meaningful. B similarly is short circuit at the output, negative, and it's a transfer impedance because it's voltage by current. This is a open circuit transfer. Transfer means I have 1 and 2. Okay, so if it was just I1 divided by V1, then you would call it as driving point. But now this is not a driving point, this is transfer because it's from port 1 to port 2. So C is a transfer admittance, B is a transfer impedance and it's a negative short circuit transfer impedance. C is a open circuit transfer admittance. So the advantage of having something like these transmission parameters basically is that when you're doing your electrical circuits, I'm applying a signal at the input and I want to see what propagates to the output. That's the main key to transmission parameters. Whereas if you had the impedance and admittance parameters here, then both V1 and V2 are inputs and you're measuring the corresponding I1, I2, or I1, I2 are the inputs and you're measuring the corresponding V1, V2. Okay, so this is the point that you have to be clear about. So transmission is to measure how much of the input is transmitting to the output. Now, having understood that very carefully, let's look at the cascading of it. You remember that the admittance matrix was cascaded when you had it in parallel. So when two networks are connected in parallel, you can add up the admittance matrix. If they are in series, you can add up the impedance matrix. And this is a chain. This is a chain because what we are showing here is that we have, let me move it up a bit. We are having two blocks which have their own ABCD parameters. So at the input, you have the current I1, and this current I1 is the same as I1A. Okay. And then I1A results in I2A. I mean, the two port network results in I2A, which gets I1A is transmitted to I2A. And then you have I1B. These two are basically the equal and opposite of each other. I1B results in I2B, and I2B is nothing but I2 over here. V1 is the value of the voltage at the first port, which is V1A. V1A results in V2A and so forth. So this is a chaining of systems. So if I had to write down the two port parameters, then I would say that uh, I could say that V1 I1 is equal to V1A I1A. That's, let's say, A1A because this is, we are calling it as the network A and there's a network B. That's equal to AA, BA, CA and DA parameters times V2A and minus I2A. Okay. And we can also say that V1B, I1B is equal to AB, BB, V2B and minus I2B. Okay. And if you notice that V2A is equal to V1B, and that's V2A and V1B are the same, and I2A is minus of I1B. So I2A over here is minus of I1B. Therefore, you can directly chain this together, and you could write this as, if I put this result in this, then what I would be left with is equal to AA. Instead of writing it all down explicitly, let me just write it as the TA matrix, right? Into V2A is now V1B into I1B, because minus I2A is equal to I1B. So I've replaced that, and now I can write this further as TA times TB. There's a transmission matrix B over here. This is TB into V2B and minus I2B, right? And what is V2B and minus I2B? That's TA V2 and minus I2. So the bottom line is, when you chain networks together, this is called chaining. So the output of one port is now connected as the input to the second network, the input port of the second network. And therefore you can say that the net result is that V1 I1 which is what I started off with over here, V1 I1 is equal to TA TB times V2 minus I2. Okay, that means if I have a two-port network which looks like this, I can split this up into two networks. I can split it into two networks, A and B, and this is the same V1 I1 and V2 minus I2 would be same V1 I1 and V2 minus I2. So I split it up into two networks, then I have to multiply the transmission matrix for both of them. Slightly different from the impedance and admittance, right? When the impedance matrix was in series, we added up the impedance matrices. When the admittance matrix was in parallel, we could add it up. But when you're chaining networks together, then the transmission parameters get multiplied. So the two matrices get multiplied. So let's use that to solve a simple example. Let's say that the question given to us is that prove that the T matrix of this network is this. Okay, so how do we prove it? Using the same chain rule that we had on top here. Well, you need not have to do it by chain rule, but since we learned about the chain rule, let's use the chain rule. So let's say there's a network A and network B, and I want to split it into a network A and a network B. Okay, so let's put some divider line. So now it's a two-port network. There are two-port networks. So let's start with network A. So network A requires a transmission matrix of this element. That's it. This is Z1. And network B requires the transmission matrix of the parallel admittance. Remember that, or notice that Z is the impedance and Y is admittance. So they're having two different units. So here I have an admittance called Y2. So what happens in the case of V1, I mean of network A? So in network A, what you can write is that if there is a V1, V2, I1 and minus I2, then the relationship is the voltage at port 1, V1, is equal to V2 minus I2 into Z1, right? I can write this equation because this is nothing but a straight line. There is an impedance over here. And I know that I1 is equal to minus I2, right? Because there's no other path just by the Kirchhoff's current law. So you know that there is only one current in this path. There is no, due to conservation of current. So I could always say that, let me just write it down. I1 is equal to minus I2. That's straightforward. And I can say that V1 is some voltage over here. That voltage is equal to I1 Z1, the voltage drop across this element, plus V2. Okay. So I could have written V1 as I1 into Z1 plus V2. But remember that my transmission matrix formalism wants me to write V1 in terms of V2 and I2. I don't want to write V1 in terms of I1 because they are both on the same side, right? When I'm using the transmission matrix. So therefore, I have chosen to write V1 as V2 plus Z1 into minus I2. So that's why I've written this in this format. Otherwise, I could have written this also as, or V1 is V2 plus I1 Z1, right? That's also correct equation. And that simply follows because we said that I1 is minus I2 anyway. But this equation is not useful for me because I'm trying to get V1 and I1 on one side and V2 and I2 on the other side. Okay, so that's the point to keep in mind. Now, if we want to write the transmission matrix, then what is the equation? We said that V1 is A times V2 here. V1 is A V2. Let's see if we can just copy it. Oops. That's copy. Okay. So I'll just put it up here. Yes. So anyway, so now I have the equation as V1 is equal to A V2 minus BI2. That means I can say that in the case of network A is equal to 1, B is equal to minus Z1, then, oh sorry, not minus Z1, B is plus Z1, because remember that B is the prefactor of minus I2. So the minus sign is absorbed in I2. So B is just plus Z1. Then what about C? I is CV2 and C is 0 because there is no representation of C over here. How am I getting it? I'm getting it from the second equation, right? So I used equation 1 to get A and B. I'm comparing V1 with V1 over here. So V1 is A V2. So that means A is equal to 1. Then V1 is minus BI2. So there is the minus I2 here. So I'm left with B is equal to Z1. Okay. Then I1 is CV2. There is no V2 over here. That means C is 0. And finally, I1 is minus DI2 and D is equal to 1 again. So the matrix I have here is 1, Z1, 0, 1. This is the matrix of the transmission matrix. I'll call it TA for an element Z1. Now, what about the other side? Here I have V1, V2, and I know the relationship is, let me write this down as equation 1. This is equation 2. Okay. And similarly here I can say that V1 is equal to V2 straightforward, right? Because they are both across the same terminal. I mean, there's nothing, it's a short circuit between V1 and V2. There's nothing there. So V1 is equal to V2. And then I have the current I1 flowing here. And let me put it in the other direction. Minus I2 flowing out. Now, in the case of I1, of course, there is a different relationship, because if you consider Kirchhoff's current law, sum of currents entering a node should be equal to sum of currents exiting the node. So the current entering this node over here is I1, and the current exiting is minus I2, and there is Y2 V2, because Y2 is a conductance. So Y2 is an admittance. So Y2 into V2 is a current. So the Y2 V2 is the current flowing in this. Normally the convention is that you have the plus and minus like this. So Y2 V2 is the current flowing in this branch, plus minus I2 is the current flowing out. That should be equal to I1, which is the current flowing in. So this becomes my second equation. And that gives me what? A is equal to 1 again, B is equal to 0, C is equal to Y2, and D is equal to 1. So this matrix TB is going to be 1, 0, Y2, 1. And that represents this element. Now, if I want to find the transmission matrix of the whole thing, then I would say that T is equal to TA into TB. And what's that going to be? If I multiply these two elements with these two elements, so I'm left with 1 plus Z1 Y2 . Then the next one is 0 plus Z1, then 0 plus Y2, and the last is 1. Is this what was asked? 1 plus Z1 Y2, Z1 Y2, great. So we've got the right answer. So we wanted to find the transmission matrix of this block, and we split it into two matrices. So the first one was Z1 and the second is Y2. We found the individual matrices TA and TB, and then we multiplied them to get the answer. Okay. Now, what makes this interesting is that the kind of network that we are talking about over here, it's called a ladder network. So this is something which is popular in electrical engineering. Normally you can see that, if you had a filter or anything, we learned the various low pass and high pass filters. And that would be something like I would have a resistance here, and then I would have a inductance over here. So that would be an RL network. Or I could have like or a resistor and a capacitor. So all of these networks, RC, RL networks and all, they all fall into this generic framework of Z1, Y2. So let's see if I can, anyway, there is one before coming to that. So I'll just talk about this briefly, and because I'm not going to spend much time. The magnetically coupled circuits where you have like a transformer. So these circuits are difficult to explain using impedance parameters or admittance parameters. So how does the basic magnetically coupled circuit work? I hope everyone has learned this already in IC 160. And if not, then I will take a separate class on the mutual inductance and magnetically coupled circuits, but I hope you have already studied this well enough. So the basic idea is that I have these two inductances and I'm putting a dot. The dot symbol means that if I apply a positive voltage at the terminals of this inductor, then the current will flow into the dotted terminal. Okay. And similarly, what will happen is, if supposing the second circuit is open circuit, then due to the mutual inductance, there will be a current which is voltage which is created across the second terminal. Okay. And if that voltage is whatever is the direction of the voltage, so if V2 has positive corresponding to V1 positive, then you place the dot over there. So this dot indicates, the dot is like experimentally determined. You would know it also if you know the direction of the coil windings, but in a real world nobody can figure out looking at inductor, the because it's so complicated the way you keep winding the structure, no one can keep track of whether it's in clockwise, anti-clockwise, or what is happening. So the manufacturers already do it and they put the dots for your convenience. So if you have a transformer, then if there is a dot here and a dot here, it means that if there is a positive voltage applied at the dotted terminal, there is a current flowing in. This will create a positive voltage at the other dotted terminal and current will flow out, right? So that's what happens in the basic mutual inductance circuit or a transformer circuit. Here what we are showing is I can have a voltage V1 here and a voltage V2 applied here. V1 results in I1 flowing in, V2 results in I2 flowing in. And as a consequence, each of them can exert some mutual inductance on the other one. Now, if this is an ideal transformer with the ratio of 1:n turns, then you could say that the direct formula is V1 I1 is given by its relationship to V2 I2 is given by this matrix, because the basic transformer equation is that if you have n number of turns, then you get like V1 is equal to n V2 and I1 is equal to minus I2 by n. So you can write this conveniently as a transmission matrix where A is equal to n and D is equal to 1 over n and B and C is equal to 0. So this is also something that's convenient to use with a transformer kind of system. Whereas if you want to determine impedance, open circuit impedance or short circuit admittance, that is more complicated to do with the magnetically coupled circuits. Then if we have some space here, then I want to go back to the ladder network that I was talking about. So let's just keep this transformer as an aside. And if we have time later in the course, in the semester, we'll go into it in more detail. Or if you don't understand this at all, then let me know. I'll go into it in more detail. So with the ladder network, what I wanted to show was, since we said that the matrix finally is 1 plus Z1 Y2, then Z1, Y2, and 1. The A term is the voltage transfer ratio, right? So here A is 1 plus Z1 Y2 is equal to V1 by V2. So if I wanted V2 over V1, which is the voltage transfer ratio, then that's 1 by 1 plus Z1 Y2. If this were an RC circuit or an RL circuit, then what will happen? If my circuit looks like this is R, I'm taking the output. I already know that the output taken across an inductor means this is a high pass filter, right? And if I wanted to, remember we are working with network functions. So this V2 by V1 is a network function. And this is basically sum H of S is V2 by V1. That's equal to 1 by 1 plus R. And Y2 is, Y represents the admittance. So this is R over SL. Okay, because the admittance is 1 over LS or SL. and therefore this becomes SL or S divided by S plus R by L. Okay. So now if I take the limits that, as S tends to 0 or infinity, if S tends to 0, then H of S becomes 0, right? So limit as S tends to 0, this implies H of S is 0, and S tends to infinity, H of S tends to 1, right? That means if I have a high frequency, if I'm having a very high frequency, then the output V2 by V1 becomes equal to 1. That's the high pass filter. And similarly, if H of S tends to 0, that means as S tends to 0 at DC voltage, the output voltage is 0, right? Because we know that in DC, the inductor is a short circuit. So when you have the transmission matrix like this, then if you know this value, you can easily figure out the characteristics of the filter. Normally, you would have to like solve every time the RL or RC circuit. It's easy because now once I have the value, I know that it is 1 plus Z1 Y2. Then the elements can be easily changed. So this is like, say, case 1. What if I had a case 2 where I use, say, Z1 is equal to R and Y2 is equal to SC, right? Because if I use a capacitor, then the admittance is just SC. And therefore, in this case, the V2 by V1 would be 1 plus 1 over 1 plus S into RC, right? And here you can clearly see that if S tends to infinity, this term becomes 0. So at high frequency, nothing comes. And at low frequency, as S tends to 0, this term becomes 1. So this is basically a low pass filter, right? So I can quickly characterize this. So tomorrow, if you have to design a low pass or a high pass filter, then all you need is a network where the transfer function is given by 1 plus Z1 Y2, and you can just plug in the appropriate elements and find out what it is. Supposing I have two of these, let's say that I have a network which looks like this. What will happen in this case? So the transmission matrix, I can again split this into two, and I know the transmission matrix of each of them. And if I want to know the voltage transfer ratio, supposing this is V out and this is V in, then I know that the transmission matrix T is equal to TA into TB. And I know that when I'm multiplying these matrices, then I need to, if T looks like this, then for this element over here, I need to multiply this and this, right? So that will give me T is equal to, so that corner element, which I'll write as this, is equal to 1 plus Z1 Y2 square, 1 plus Z1 Y2 into Z1 plus Z1 into 1. No, 1 plus, maybe I should do it explicitly. So what I'm doing is I'm multiplying this row, which is this row, with this column, which is this column. Okay. So it's 1 plus Z1 Y2 square plus Z1 Y2. So if I have like complicated networks like this, where there are many elements, then if I know the simple formula for one single network, the transmission matrix for say one single network, which looks like this with one series and one parallel element, then I can keep adding more and more of these. And I just have to keep multiplying the transmission matrices. If I want the voltage transfer ratio, I just need this corner element, right? Because the value of A is the voltage transfer ratio. So that way I can quickly determine what are the various what is the behavior of the network for the different transfer functions. So we'll discuss this ladder network more when we talk about filter design and talking about like, more cutoff frequencies. So this is called a ladder network. Let me write it down. You can keep adding more and more components, the same, following the same pattern, that you have something like this and then something like this, right? So that keeps going on. Finally, we have something called the hybrid parameters. What we talked about until now was the transmission parameters. Maybe I'll take up the hybrid parameters in the next class, because this itself is, one consolidated topic. Hybrid parameters is very small, but we'll just take it up separately and combine it with some other topic. So let's stop here and take up in the next class.